At the dawn of the automobile age in America, there were all kinds of cars trying to fix all kinds of problems and make all kinds of money. There were good cars, bad cars, strong cars, and weak cars. Some sold millions, and some not at all. The 1911 Reeves OctoAuto fits the latter category, and maybe is the weirdest, best, and worst car ever to run on American roads. But the story of the Octo Auto begins way before 1911. To tell the story of this larger than life car, we need to go way back to 1879 to a local sawmill in Indiana, and a young Milton Reeves was observing sawmill workers struggle with their spinning blades. You see, at this time, the blades at sawmills ran at one speed regardless of wood or cut needed, resulting in massive losses and potential safety issues for workers. So, after a spark of inspiration in a few months, Mr. Reeves devised a clever system, a transmission for the blades to allow them to run at different speeds, cutting down on losses of lumber and maybe even human life, too. The idea was so clever that Reeves and members of his family would go into business together, selling these pulley transmissions under the Reeves Pulley Company. A few more inventions here and there, and Milton Reeves would wind up in 1896, at the dawn of the automobile age in America. In that year, Reeves, like many other ambitious and brilliant people all across the nation in the 1890s, would develop experimental cars, most of which would never be heard from again. His first car was called the motorcycle. Never showing much talent for style, the motorcycle was a crude affair, appearing to be cobbled together with old wagon parts. Reeves seemingly was a proponent of automotive safety. Not only would the car create such fumes and vibrations that no one would want to drive it, but the passengers actually sat in front of the driver, acting as an early crumple zone in the event of a crash. But the motorcycle actually seemed to work well, other than being very uncomfortable and stinky. The car used a clever transmission system designed by Reeves, which allowed for gear changes, and it worked better than the single speed transmission used by a worker at the Edison Illuminating Company in Detroit that was produced in the same year, a man named Henry Ford, who we probably won't hear from ever again. But fast forward to 1911. The motorcycle was not a runaway success. Records are scant, but Reeves likely never sold more than a handful, if he ever sold any at all. There were other attempts between the motorcycle and now to produce cars and engines for sale to the public, with some success. But Mr. Reeves had one more trick to play, his craziest idea yet. To make this wild car, Reeves would take a standard Overland car and basically add four wheels to it. The four wheels in the back would act as brakes and the power motive for this beast, while the ones in the extreme rear would countersteer as well, while the four in the front would steer normally. Really, other than that, it was a standard car of the era. It was in the pursuit of the smoothest riding car possible. Quote, dubbed the easiest riding car in the world, the Reeves was actually a solution to a common problem of the era. You see, during the turn of the century in America, paved roads were very uncommon, with only main streets in towns having paved roads totaling less than 500 miles in the country by some accounts. The remaining roads were divided between improved, meaning gravel usually, and unimproved, meaning dirt, sand, mud, or other things you wouldn't want to drive over, especially in spring and winter. Rides in the era could be harsh, jarring affairs that would throw passengers around with every bump and could destroy tires, front ends, and wheel spokes. The Reeve was, quote, built on the principle of a Pullman parlor car, meaning the wheels were organized like the trucks on a train that would have the effect of dispersing weight and bumps more evenly. Quote, on the principle that three little bumps are easier to cushion than one big one, builders of sleeping coaches have developed what is looked upon as the acme of railway comfort, and on the same general principle, M.O. Reeves of Columbus, Indiana, has constructed a multi-wheeled automobile to which he has applied the appropriate and abbreviated design of Octo Auto. And according to reports of the era, this worked well. The car was driven thousands of miles and had likely dozens of reporters ride in it. The general consensus was that the car rode smooth and easy, a real pleasurable vehicle. Another benefit to this car was its supposed ease on tires, or so the theory says at least. That 8 wheels would have less car per wheel and would strain the primitive tires of the day less and result in less blowouts. To this theory, I cannot verify. Why did this car not catch on? Other than the first glance telling you that, this auto was extremely expensive for the era, around $100,000 plus in today's money, or more than double the price of the Overland of which it was based on. And even though the reports were favorable, it was probably not the most wieldy car. And as suspension and tire tech evolved, the issues of a buggy like ride were quickly dissipating. And soon after the Good Roads movement, and others would finally win out in having their dream of well improved roads from coast to coast. It's not clear what Milton Reeves really wanted from this car. If he wanted it to be a proof of concept, to sell, or license. Ads by Reeves were soliciting companies to license his patents for their own cars, as well as ads to buy the car itself. But either way, within about a year, Reeves and his motor car would vanish just as quickly as it showed up. Shortly after, a new car by him, with four wheels in the back and two in the front, titled the SextoAuto, would arrive and vanish in similar fashion. Milton Reeves would continue to manufacture pulleys and engines, and at the age of 60 in 1925, he would die a successful man with over 100 patents to his name.